president, Allison Kemmerer, is not here today due to circumstances beyond his control. So there's two words that you're probably thinking right now. He's back. This will be a real good time, everybody. Go ahead and take your cell phones out and turn them on silent. Go ahead and check in on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever else there is. Let people know that you're engaged with the club. Help us to promote ourselves. And now I'd like for everyone to please stand for our national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance. And please welcome Miss Rochelle Ewart to lead us with this. Is she here today?
Yeah.
No.
She is? She's not?
Oh.
She's not? I'll do it. Okay, well, I'll do it.
You do.
I'll do it. All right, everybody, let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, sing and you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose cross stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare from bursting air. They grew through the night, and our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing for our invocation and introductions by David Jones.
Let's pray together. God, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here today. The beautiful day outside and a beautiful day inside as we're sharing this time with our friends and our peers and our fellow Rotarians. We ask your blessings on our time. We ask your blessings on our work as we leave this place, go out and representing ourselves, our families, our places of business, and our community. Help us to be a Rotarian that can stand tall and follow the four-way test in a way that will bring glory and honor to your name as well to the club. Bless our time. May it be fruitful and profitable. And may we say it's been good to be at Rotary today. In the blessed name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Be seated, please. Do we have any visiting Rotarians with us today? You are a visiting Rotarian. Would you, on this side of the room, let's start over here on my left. Your right, visiting Rotarian. Stand, introduce yourself. Okay. Next table, visiting Rotarian.
Yes.
I would do the middle just a second. Back in the back. Okay. All right. Up here on the front table, please. Stand, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Christopher. I've been here before. I've been also my membership in
All right. Came all the way from Australia. All right. Glad to have you with us today. Middle table, middle row. Back table, middle row. Okay. Over here on my right, any visiting Rotarian? All right. We have a lot of guests today, and we are so delighted you're here. So if you have brought a guest host, I would ask you to stand and introduce your host. Introduce your guest. Over here at this table, do we have someone? Please. Welcome. Glad to have you with us. Let's do this. Let's hold all of our applause till the very end. All right. This next table, do we have a host?
This is my dentist, Dr. Mark Gordon. Welcome him and hoping that he will be joining our club.
All right. Thank you. Glad to have you with us. Yes, sir.
My neighbor, Randy Reedman, retired builder from Bellingham, Washington.
All right. Good job. Glad to have you with us.
Bill Martin. Bill's halfway to joining.
All right. Halfway. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Okay, back in the back. Okay. How about here in this intersection? Guest, if you're a host, stand please, introduce your guest.
Deborah and Danny Clemens, who are my guests here today, and want to mention that yesterday was Fran Hall's birthday.
All right, Fran Hall. Happy birthday, Miss Fran. Yes, Jim? All right, Cheryl, welcome. Glad to have you with us today. Okay, Derek.
I have a longtime friend who works with Q Creative, James Draper, who's formerly the editor of Kilgore Paper, Kilgore News. I have Sherry Lee. Sherry is the vice president, of Visit Tyler. So she knows everything on the square and a longtime supporter of Tyler, of course. But she just leads everything she does outside of Tyler is to bring people here to Tyler and experience what we experience every day. So I'm glad to have Sherry Lee. Jan Barton is a wonderful photographer, but you might know her at every event doing that for free. And she is really documenting all the symphony things with scrapbooks and all, and very active with the Tyler Civic Theater on the board of several things. Jan Barton. And Sarah Spicer is the director of gift planning. So she plans estates and brings money into the community of the University of Texas at Tyler. And she's been a long-time development officer. We stole her from San Antonio, UT San Antonio. So we're glad to have Saren, like Karen, only with an S, Saren Spicer. Annette Finley, we were told to say their jobs in their place. Annette Finley's job is to leave every place she goes better than she finds it. That's her job. And she is Miss Sunshine, and she does abundance for this community and a lot of community organizations. Annette Finley. Yes. Deanna Hargrove. Deanna, if you've been to anything at the Tyler Civic Theater, Deanna Hargrove is the producer, the director, the janitor, to on stage star, and that's Janet. Deanna has been a long time friend, and I've gotten to know her, and I've been a long time fan. Deanna Hargrove, and I hope y'all come to all the shows and have your season tickets. Deanna Hargrove at the Rose Park there. Perry Langenstein. Perry is a longtime friend. Used to produce shows in the community theater in Longview. That's where I met him. Maybe my first break on Broadway. But Perry Langenstein is a theatrical producer, but also he designs theaters and concert venues all over the world. He's back settled in Tyler, and we're so glad to have him back here in Tyler. Perry Langenstein.
Thank you, Derek.
All right.
Yes. Oh, my other tail. Okay, and I'm gonna, that's it for Ruth. I've got one more guest over here. Deidre Alden, my sister. And so Jennifer's guest, and I'll introduce Deidre, and y'all know her. And this is her second time, so she's got a sign up. And Therese Pace, it's not Teresa, it's Therese Pace. She's very involved in the historical home tours, because she's very involved on the board of historical Tyler. So Therese Pace is a person you need to know, and she's also brought a lot of goodwill and good tidings to Tyler because of her time. And Jeff, I'm gonna let you, Ruth. Go ahead. Okay, they're kind of shared guests. Jeff Thomas is the guy that controls all the delinquents. Hopefully he doesn't know any of your children or grandchildren. He's head of the juvenile delinquency academy enrichment program.
Hopefully he does what we do.
Jeff Thomas. And Janet Majors has visited before, but Janet is back, and she is another community involved member, and so I'm so grateful to know you, Janet. She's brought a lot of good to everything. Janet Majors. And also Dr. I said, he's been passed around. So that's a good terminology. Several different members have invited Dr. Johnson. We're so glad to have you back today. That's right. Got into this table, Ruth. And then, of course, our new member, Judy Fennell, at Grogan, and Judy is a real estate agent here in town, and also lights up a room. And we're so glad to have you, Judy, and we're glad to have you as a member. I hope you got approved.
All right, thank you, Derek. How about take it back to Kobe? All right, thank you. Okay. Anybody else back in this section back over? Okay. Ashley? All right, congratulations, very good. That deserves applause. All right, next table.
They're all right. She's with GFW inspections for all of your home, pool, septic, and inspections.
All right, welcome.
This is John Landis. He's with Hayden Property Group, and John and I are actually working on a transaction together. He's a commercial realtor, and this transaction is very interesting. It's both of our clients have been financing. We are on team closing, and we're going to make this work. And this is Molly Porter. She's with Day One Insurance Group, and she is available for all your home, boat, car, life insurance needs. And Kirsten Crawford. She is my favorite real estate instructor. She's also a program owner, and her and my husband own a business survey. And if you need to know why you need a survey, this is Chelsea Hart. Chelsea and her husband own and operate Freedom Paris. If you didn't know, they now have 3 locations. They have the original across from Walmart in South Broadway. They have the newest one in French Quarter. They also have one here. This is my daughter, Sandra Templin. She goes by Casey. She's an RN with cardiovascular disease, child health. She's a mom of 3, and she for the better part of 10 years coached here and was on their board. And in her spare time, she went back to school and last December got her bachelor's in nursing. She then went back to school and recently got a certification in cardiovascular. And she's going back to school. So if you're wondering how it is, I can hear you. So this is my favorite son-in-law. This is Kyle Kirkland, and he is also an RN, and he's a manager for Fresenius. Fresenius and dialysis center over at Help Tyler. He also has to go to dialysis in Paris and sometimes and he's also the father of 3 and the resident chauffeur.
Okay, any other guests over here? All right, now let's have one good round of applause for all of our guests. Oh, excuse me. One more. I'll skip.
To the point, I'd like to introduce my husband, Jeff Lewis.
Oh, we know that guy.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Glad you guys are here today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. By the way, that's not a hat, that's a cry for help.
Look at it.
Okay, I want to thank our greeters for today, Derek Bondurant, Greg Palka. Let's go ahead and bring up Paul Glasser on KTVB Radio for This Week in History.
Take it away, Paul. Thank you, Bill. Today, the 29th of September, 1982, a flight attendant named Paula Prince died suddenly in Chicago. She was the 6th such unexplained death. Investigators finally put together the fact that all 6 victims had purchased bottles of Tylenol extra strength capsules. It was determined that the capsules inside the bottles had been intentionally laced with cyanide. Perpetrator was never found, but tamper-resistant packaging of everything from medicine to ketchup soon followed. Some of it is impossible to open. On the 30th of September, 1938, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain signed what came to be called the Munich Pact with German Chancellor Adolf Hitler. The pact ceded the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia to German control, but had the practical effect of subjugating all of Czechoslovakia. Chamberlain agreed to the pact in the belief that it would appease Hitler and would avoid war. Upon returning from Germany, Chamberlain said, "I believe it is peace for our time." World War II began 11 months later. On the 1st of October, 1908, the mass-produced automobile was introduced to the market by the Ford Motor Company. The Model T came in your choice of colors as long as it was black and cost $825, which is about $19,000 in today's dollars. On the 2nd of October, 1919, after having collapsed from exhaustion a week earlier, President Woodrow Wilson suffered a massive stroke that left him paralyzed on his left side and mostly blind in his right eye, and for all practical purposes incapacitated. His wife Edith handled most of his duties, acting when she had to through his cabinet. Wilson would serve out his term as a de facto invalid until March of 1921. On the 3rd of October, 1995, after an epic and massively publicized criminal trial, former Heisman Trophy winner and pro football player O.J. Simpson was acquitted on all charges related to the murder of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her boyfriend Ron Goldman. On the 4th of October, 1927, Kutsan Borglum detonated the first dynamite blast in the rock facing of Mount Rushmore to begin the 10-year process of sculpting the faces of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt into the rock there in Mount Rushmore. And finally, on the 5th of October, 1962, a little-known four-man combo released a song called Love Me Do in Great Britain. The song peaked at number 17 in the UK at the time of its release. It was not released in the United States until April of 1964, where it would peak at number 1. The song had been recorded a month earlier. It would launch a group called the Beatles. There are actually 3 recorded versions of Love Me Do, recorded with 3 different drummers. Only the 1964 US release has Ringo Starr on the drums. Birthdays in the coming week, starting tomorrow. Angie Dickinson turns 91. On Saturday, former President Jimmy Carter turns 97. Also on Saturday, Julie Andrews turns 87. On Sunday, Gordon Sumner. Anybody? Sting. Who said it? Sting turns 71 on Sunday. And on Tuesday, Susan Sarandon turns 76. That's this week in history.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. And David, you want to do our membership update? David Jones? Okay, he said no, so the answer is no. Christy Hill, do you have a Ukraine update for us? Quickly, please.
So we've been asked multiple times to do a short update, so we're going to do it real short. So far, the club has raised $4,532 to go towards the humanitarian aid package for Ukraine, which is fantastic. Pam Walters asked if we would share a quick story from someone who has been personally affected by the war, so Christy's going to do that.
So one of our staff members in Ukraine, Marina, since the war started, she started sending me excerpts from her diary, and I want to read you her last one she sent. Saturday, August 27th, 2022. It's been 3 days since the big holiday in Ukraine, Independence Day, which is August 24th. And it marked exactly 6 months of the war that's still ongoing. We've had many warnings from the officials about the days preceding the holiday and the holiday itself, that we had to be extra careful. No large gatherings and no official celebrations. According to the official data, this day we had the most air sirens and air strikes since the history of the war. The sirens aren't that bad if they're not followed by actual hits, but unfortunately, that also took place. Yet another tragedy. Missiles hit the railway hub in our city, damaged the infrastructure, the buildings, the railway, and the passenger cars. As the days went on, with every new news report, the number of people killed would grow. 15, 22, 25, and even more injured. The worst was to read there were children, 11-year-old boy, a 6-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I had more time to read the news this week. Now, I'm not sure of how good of an idea that was. The feelings of desperation sometimes just closes in on you. How can people travel now? Cars aren't safe, and now traveling by train doesn't feel safe anymore either. Obviously, there are no planes flying over Ukraine since February. Talk about feeling trapped. I'm thinking this might be my last letter for quite some time. Marina and her husband Sergey are pregnant with twins, and they are really excited about that because they had been told they couldn't have children. Excuse me. Marina's husband is also Russian, even though he lives in Ukraine. As you can imagine, some extra complications that adds. She shared recently that she's been having panic attacks. I can't imagine why. But she said, imagine going to your doctor, excuse me, allergies, to talk about your panic attacks, and the air raid sirens go off, and you have to go in the basement with your doctor.
Thank you again to the club. If you want to make a donation towards the $10,000 goal, you can get with Holly and make your donation tax deductible through the Tyler Club of Rotary Foundation.
No, it's the Rotary Club of Tyler Foundation.
I'm sorry.
Get it right, dude. Thank you, Christy. All right, Rotary business. Our Rotary District 5830 conference is Saturday, October the 8th, $50. Location is the Museum of the Red River in Annabelle, Oklahoma. Our fall social will be at the home of Mary and Henry Birch, October the 27th, with the Tex-Mex theme and Henry's special world-famous jalapeno margaritas. The cost is $45 per head. Sign up and prepay by October the 13th. Need your August and September volunteer hours, email them to Holly. And our program for October 6th will be our Clinton McCoy from Carter Blood Care. And now let's go ahead and bring up our current president-elect. Please welcome Ms. Trudy Williams.
Oh, man, I'm not used to those kinds of introductions.
Get out here, Trudy.
Oh, man. Okay. Hello, I'm Trudy Williams. I'm the president-elect for the Rotary Club of Tyler. I want to welcome you again if you are a guest. We are very happy to have you here. We're glad you visited. We hope you stay. So we hope you see how much fun we have in this room in this hour, and we want you, if you are interested in being part of our club, please come talk to somebody after that, because we would love to have you. As I was sitting here, I got to visit with Andy, and I was surprised to know that a lot of his family come from my home state, which is South Carolina. We were talking about where we went to school, and he mentioned to me that a lot of his grandmother's family was from Clemson, and that's really cool because I went to Wofford College in Spartanburg, South Carolina. You may not have ever heard of that. So we're happy to have Andy here. He is the president of Bergfeld Realty Company, LLC in Tyler, and he is a fifth-generation Tylerite. He grew up in Tyler, attended Rice, Hubbard, and Robert E. Lee High School, where he excelled in football and track. And he was part of the first football playoff team in school history and the only Robert E. Lee relay team to ever win a medal at the state track and field meet. It was a silver in the 4x400 meter relay. He received a full football scholarship to SMU, where he went on to earn his BA in 1993. After college, he received his JD from South Texas College of Law in Houston and was admitted to practice law in the state of Texas in 1997. Andy also founded Bergfeld Realty Company, LLC, and has been heavily involved in the development of this city for the past 19 years, which we are about to hear about. He and his wife, Sean, Sean has served on the Hubbard and Three Lakes Middle School PTA president. They've been married for 24 years and they have 3 sons. Andrew goes to TCU, George, Texas A&M, and Alexander, and he's at Legacy, correct? Okay. And they are also members of First Baptist Church. We're very happy to have Andy Bergfeld, so please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you, Trudy. I appreciate that. Most of what you said was true. No, it's an honor to be here. Really is. I I know so many of you and admire so many of you. That to be able to get here in front of you and talk today, it really is an honor. I did bring a slideshow with me. The first time I ever gave a presentation on commercial real estate, it was a lunch meeting to a bunch of medical professionals, and by the end of it, about half of them were asleep. So I didn't have any slides, so we're gonna do our best. That's my goal, is to keep most of you awake. It's a low bar, I know, but that's the goal. So when I was asked to come talk about downtown development and my role in it, it got me to thinking a lot about how did I end up, in downtown Tyler working on redevelopment projects down there, and why is that such a passion for me? And so if you get me, you get some history in with whatever else you ask me to speak about. So I'm going to give you a little history here. Let's talk about how business has come full circle. If you'll click on the next one there, and one more time. So Trudy might be the only person who's heard of this general here. This was my 5th great grandfather, who was a general in the Revolutionary War, General Andrew Pickens. He fought several battles, but was the leader of the militia at Cowpens, where they defeated the British. And anyway, next slide. And this guy's name is Patrick Noble. He was my 3rd great grandfather, and he was the governor of South Carolina from 37 or 38 to 40. He passed away in office. And why that's important, the next slide, this is my grandmother, Caroline Bergfeld. She taught me everything there was about history in our family. And I was her favorite, of course, because she had like 20 scrapbooks, and she had everything from every branch of her family in a different scrapbook. And when I was little, I would just sit on her lap, and she would read to me about different family members and what they had done. And I think that's how I can trace back my love of history, is to Mama. Some other people. This is a kind of a cool picture. That is Rudolph and Lena Bergfeld. That is my great-great-grandfather, who came to Tyler in 1878. Had a saloon on the square, is where he started out. Moved on to real estate, banking, hotels, all kinds of stuff. Next one, that is his son, J.A. Bergfeld, who, with my grandfather, who is on the next slide, did Bergfeld Center, the 2nd shopping center away from a downtown in the state of Texas. And then finally, last slide on influences in my career, that is my grandfather on my mother's side, Mr. H.C. Hood. He was a flight instructor and a test pilot during World War II. He was probably the nicest man I knew growing up. I never saw him in a bad mood his whole life. He ended up going from Oklahoma City down to a place called Midland when they discovered oil in the Permian Basin, and was retired by his mid-50s. So a great guy, but all, had influences on me. I'm actually 6th generation. The Bergfelds have been here for 5, but Julius and Johanna Pabst, he came here in 1849, and that's his house on the corner of Noble and Fannin, which was torn down for an office building. And next slide. The cool thing about Julius Pabst is he built most of the current east side of the square. If you see up at the top of the square, there's a J. Pabst name on a couple of those buildings. That was him. So that would have been my great-great-great-grandfather. Okay? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. This is the Bergfeld Loan and Trust building, where the current new jail sits right now. It was torn down as well. Wish we'd have that back, but it's a beautiful building. that's where our family business started. Okay. So what did I do? She mentioned a little bit, Trudy did. Went to Dallas, SMU, got an education, history major, geology minor. You can click on, went on, there's SMU, pretty campus. Then I went on down to South Texas College of Law in Houston. And while I was in law school, I really felt like I started to kind of learn things and like see the world. And a lot of what I saw around me down in Houston was some neat older buildings in downtown. The law school's downtown. And so places like La Carafe, which is the next slide, hopefully. Yeah, that's a bar that's been in continuous operation since the 1840s in downtown Houston. Super cool place. We would go there, hang out. Those are the kind of places I liked. There were vacant buildings like the Rice Hotel, which is next. That was completely vacant. Now it's completely renovated. It's beautiful. And then the Jefferson Davis Hospital looked just like that, sitting on a hill above Buffalo Bayou. So I'm seeing all these things and thinking, these redevelopments are starting in big cities. And they started those projects as I was leaving Houston, and people wanted to be downtown. They wanted to kind of have that sense of community again. So after law school, I moved up here and started practicing law. And let's see what's next on here. I'm not sure. Yeah, now that's the new hospital. They've renovated it. I left for my hometown. So I come back to Tyler, and I just felt like I owed something to the community that had done such a good job, well, what you know about with me, did a good job helping raise me. And so when I came back, I thought, how do I get involved? What can I do? Ran for the school board in 1999, and I've been on it since then, pretty much. Can't get the merry-go-round to slow down enough for me to jump off, but that's one of the things I've been involved with. But then as I was practicing law, it was kind of a means to an end. I always knew I really wanted to do real estate. And so the first project I think we've got on here, Colonel John Dewberry House. Some of y'all may have heard about this. This was the first property my wife and I purchased. I actually put it under contract while we were still engaged. And the Dewberry House is now known as the Mistress. That's what my wife named it. And she said, I spent all of my time with the Mistress, and we laugh about it now. If you click on it, that's when I bought it. That's what it looked like. And then over the next 4 years, we just restored the entire house. It's the oldest two-story house in Smith County. It was built by Colonel John Dewberry in 1852. And anyway, that's a whole story in itself that we could do a speech on. But that was one of the probably more fun projects that I worked on. Next. So the Dewberry House is interesting because basically I broke even on it. Didn't make any money. And you can't really keep doing these things if you don't make any money on them. So I thought, well, maybe I need to get into the commercial side. So purchased this little strip on University Place. Some of y'all may have seen it across from Caldwell School. I learned a little bit in each one of these projects. I learned in that one that you can run projections based on like current insurance, current property taxes, current rent rolls. But if any of those change, it can have an adverse effect. So that building, they raised the property taxes on it like $100,000 after I bought it, as far as the value goes. And back then, that was a big deal. So, that was another lesson. And that the previous owner had an insurance claim on the roof, and she took the money and didn't fix the roof. So some of those things you learn, but that was my first project. Fortunately, Austin Bank behind me there wanted the property really bad, so I ended up selling that to them, and then I purchased this property here. This is 210 South Broadway. It used to be a furniture store with ugly yellow clad sheet metal on the front of it for years. That was a fun project too. That one we ended up peeling all the sheet metal off, kind of putting a new front on it, and that was one of the first real redevelopment projects in downtown Tyler. my partner on that is Tim Brookshire, who I've met. That's a whole nother story there, but Tim Brookshire and I have been partners in commercial real estate since '04 when we purchased that building. It's been a great project. I was a little scared because, like, when you go in the upstairs, it had a drop ceiling in it. Well, I took out the drop ceiling and then just left the exposed deck and all the beams and everything real, you know, kind of industrial type. And I didn't know if Tyler was ready for that yet. I took my uncle and my dad in there to show them, and my uncle, if you know my Uncle Bob, he's like, "Where's the ceiling?" And I was like, "This is it." He's like, "I don't think this is going to work in Tyler." But anyway, it did, thankfully. There were people that thought that was neat, and that's been a great project for us. So then we moved on to, that's just another picture of it. The Wright Building. Turns out we have some history there. The T.O. Wright Building, across from the Catholic Church. Beautiful building that we've been kind of renovating as we go along, depending on what tenants need. That one has a vacant space above it that we're going to do apartments in someday, and probably do tax credits on that, historic tax credits. Okay. Downtown. So People's Petroleum Building, most of y'all have kind of heard of that building. We purchased that in 2011. It was about 20% occupied. The old bank had been vacant since 78, 79. But incredible bones, beautiful marble, hardwoods. And so Mr. Brookshire and I purchased that one, and we ended up kind of using historic tax credits, which I had done on the Dewberry House. That was my job on this project, was to coordinate all the tax credits and get those done, which, you know, at the end of the day, you get 45 cents on every dollar that you spend using tax credits. And that's the only way that would have worked. We had to replace all the electrical, all the plumbing, all the elevators, everything. So, but they are, that building is 99% occupied today. And it's doing great. There's a Prime 102 restaurant there, as you can see the difference. If you haven't been there, it's a great restaurant. Okay. Once we filled up People's Petroleum, we kind of put our eyes on Plaza Tower, the building next to it. It had 34,000 feet of former Bank of America space that was empty, and the previous owners couldn't figure out what to do with that space. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to get the building, and our plan was to create a community with the vacant Bank of America space. So where the executive back offices were with the dark black windows on the square that you couldn't see in, our vision was to just open everything up, lighten it up. We put the 3 retailers in there, Andy's and Truvine and Cafe 1948. And then we put this open lobby space where people could just gather. As long as you follow the rules of the atrium, you can just hang out in there. And so it's a great place to have, to see Tyler and to see what activities going on downtown. This event was a cool event we had in August where everybody dressed up in their whites. We had 3 artists that started paintings and finished them by the end of the party, and then we auctioned the paintings off. And it was beautiful. They just did a great job. But those are the kind of things that we're doing now downtown that's just fun. Okay. Next. There's the sidewalk. It's just a lot of life down there. I moved my offices from Bergfeld Center downtown in 2018, and just the life that is down there is so much fun to see in Tyler. So this is the latest project I'm working on. The old Trailways bus station. The next picture, you'll see what it looked like when we bought it. And there in the first picture, they had covered everything up and as they modernized it. And then today is the next picture. We pulled all of that off. Our building, our plans are at the city. awaiting a building permit. And the idea is to basically renovate it back to the original 1946 look. The building was built in 32, but we're going to go with 46 finish out. It'll have 9 overnight lodging rooms like Airbnb, and then it'll have 2,500 feet of retail for a restaurant, wine bar, something that we need downtown. So it'll be a cool project. You'll see it coming along in the next probably 12 months. We'll be renovating it. So downtown, what's going on downtown? So Tool Design is a group, they are urban planners. They're the best at downtown redevelopment, I think, in the country. And the city of Tyler hired them to do a study on what do we need to do to downtown to really make it go. And since, I think, Paul talked about the Model T, was that in 08?
What was the good question? Yeah, I think that's.
I think from about,
Oh, wait.
08, so from about 1910 until today, everything downtown has been focused on the automobile. And it was how can you get all these cars downtown and park them and get people into their office buildings and even get them through downtown as fast as you can. Well, the trend now in downtown development is to make it more pedestrian friendly, to make it easier to walk, easier to take your family in a stroller, slow down so you can see the retailers, have unique, neat shops, drive around, park on the perimeter of the downtown, but then walk through the downtown. And so Tool Design has come in, and this is just one of the things they, kind of proposed. That's the corner of College and Irwin. So I really believe in what they are doing and what they're proposing, and I would encourage you to, the city council still has to approve a final plan. And I think they're tweaking that right now, but I hope they will do most of what Tool has recommended to them, because it really could help downtown. So the next is North. They're a company out of New Orleans that has purchased the Carlton, which is that building, and I think there's a few others here. Yes, Fair Foundation and the Lindsay building, which are up here, and the Cooperative Savings building, which looks like a bombed out building from some third world country. Those 4 buildings need to be renovated. This company has put together, I think it's an Opportunity Zone fund to hopefully renovate those, and they were going to start with the Carlton Hotel. Until those buildings get renovated, it's going to be a little tough on South Broadway, but we're hopeful. So those projects are in the pipe. And then next, most of y'all have heard, we've got a courthouse that's going to be on the ballot in November. What they're proposing is to have the front door of the courthouse be the back door of the current courthouse, stay in the current courthouse while they build the new courthouse. The whole east side of the square that my whatever great-grandfather built will be demolished. And that was a little hard for me, and when you're doing redevelopment downtown, you don't ever want to demolish anything, really. Everything can be renovated, and it has character. And you may not like that particular taste, but somebody does. So the east side of the square, if y'all remember, caught fire. Gosh, what was that, early 2000s probably. And really since then, it's kind of been like, been a little bit of an eyesore. I thought maybe let's go back to the courthouse in the middle of the square. A lot of people agreed with me. One person didn't. That person had a bigger stick. So the Broadway's going to continue through for now, through the middle of the square. And this courthouse will basically go from the back door east to the railroad tracks. We need it. We're out of space in the current one. Whether you like the look of the current modern courthouse or not, they simply don't have near enough space for all the courts that they need. I think if we can pull all this together with Tool Design, new courthouse, continue renovating these buildings, and we can make our downtown a destination, which is what we're all trying to do. It can be, and it is for some now, but pulling these together, I think, is probably the biggest keys for us downtown. All right, is that all we got? So for downtown, you talk about urban sprawl. People are wanting to come back to a community. We call it live, work, and play. And that's what we try to do with all of our developments. It's not just you drive to your office, you park your car, you go up and sit in your office, you go for lunch somewhere in your car, you come back until 5 and then you leave. We've got something going on all the time downtown. So, and then, as far as live, John Landis has got some project west of the square. Sam Scarborough's got another group of apartments that are just opening up like in the last month. And there's more development planned for the live side of things. So that's going good as well. And lastly, people want an experience. Where you work and how you work makes a difference now. When I first started practicing law, my office had about an 8-inch window, vertical window that looked at the back of a dumpster. And I was supposed to just take it, like it, be happy you got an office. People aren't that way anymore. People want to have a good experience when they go to work. And so Garnet Brookshire, myself, and Tim Brookshire kind of taking Tim's, the Brookshire's a customer's always right philosophy is what we've tried to do. And so we take care of our tenants. We're not adversaries to our tenants. We love on them. We give them gifts. We're there for them. We send them cards when they have children. I mean, it's just part of being a community. And, so that's kind of what we've done downtown. Thank you guys. Once again, it's an honor. If anybody has any questions, if I've got any time left.
You got 7 minutes.
7 minutes. So hit me with anything. I know I've covered a lot through all of this.
You got an hour and 7 minutes.
Yes.
Have you heard anything about the reworking of streets? I know that Gene Shaw has mentioned a couple of times that there's some plans for renovating part of Ferguson Street.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about any of that?
Well, there's a couple of things that they're doing. One of the great things for downtown, downtown has like 20 lights. Like you'll be sitting there and there'll be nobody at it anywhere and you still have to sit at the light. So about 6 months ago, and I said, why do you have so many lights downtown? This is stupid. And they go, well, it was a government grant. We got the money, so we felt like we had to put them in. Yeah, and I'm like, that is just stupid. Yeah, so I've told them, just take them all out and just stick a stop sign up. We don't need all these lights. Maybe on Broadway while it's still open, yes, but the rest of it can be stop signs. And I've been harping on that for a couple of years. Well, then 6 months ago, Tool Design recommended that they get rid of a bunch of these lights, so they put them on blinking red now, and that's perfect. That's great. That's the way they should be. As far as the streets go, the design of these streets, so basically it'll take everything down to 2-lane, both way, not one way. We don't need one-way streets downtown anymore. That's another thing that doesn't make any sense. So it'll be 2-way streets down there, but then you'll have big sidewalks on each side, and then all of your retailers will have large patio space too, where you can sit out in front of a place in the shade and enjoy your dinner or enjoy a beer or enjoy whatever you want to do. It'll create a lot more outdoor space and less space for cars. Yes?
How is the capacity and also, I guess, filling up of the housing downtown, the lofts and the new townhomes they're building? Are they pretty well received?
From everything I hear, John could probably speak a little more to that, but from everything I hear, it's going just exactly as planned. That as soon as they can get them open, they're filling them up or selling them. And I know there's more planned on the way too. Yes, sir.
Sir, is the plan for the Carlton to be restored as a hotel?
No, from what I've heard, they'll do retail on the ground floor and it'll be apartments above. And I think, last I heard, there's a little funding gap, and I'm just speaking out of gossip right now, but they're working on filling that funding gap. They're doing tax credits also. They've got other housing credits that they can do to try to make these things work. Yes.
To what extent were the plans for all of this predicated on low rates?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. And fortunately, like on the bus station, we locked in our rate before rate hike started, like literally a week before they started. But yeah, it just depends on each project, I would assume. And I don't know too what kind of funding North is doing. If they're doing this investment opportunity zone, they may not finance much of it. I don't know. Yes, sir.
Downtown Tyler's recent designation as a historic district.
Yep.
Was that helpful or a hindrance?
It's helpful in that for the historic tax credits, you've got to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places, either as a, like the whole downtown most of downtown got listed, or you can do it individually by individual project. So by this blanket layer over downtown, it takes out a lot of the guesswork of whether I'm going to be able to get my building on the National Register to be able to qualify for the historic tax credits. So to me, as a developer, that's the best thing, about having in a national district.
Just one other question. I had, Annette brought this to my mind, but, but are the parking meters downtown, are they seem to be helpful, or are they gonna ever get rid of those?
That's a great question, because one of Toole's recommendations is to do away with parking meters. And we have gone with the mayor and city manager and showed him places where they've taken parking meters out. Now, the difference about Tyler is some of these other communities don't have the huge office presence that we have downtown. So if you're going to shop, you're not going to park all day. Well, I'm not. My shopping's pretty short. Some of you may. Yeah. So usually the flow is natural. People are coming and going, so it's not an issue. The problem with downtown is if you get office tenants that are going to be sitting in their office all day, parking in spaces where you want your destination travelers to park, that's kind of the rub I see with us getting rid of them completely. So, yes, sir.
One other thing, you might tell them, the downtown churches are vibrant and alive and growing.
Yes, Jim. So, yeah, gosh, that was 2007 when some of the churches downtown were determined that downtown was dead, and we had to leave and go south. And fortunately, they had done some studies nationwide that said that urban churches were the second fastest growing churches in the country. And we just had to realize that in Tyler, that this was coming. This whole love for the downtown in the heart of your city, it was coming. And for some people, traditional hymns, some people, traditional service. Everybody didn't want to go to the suburbs and go to contemporary. And so definitely has been happening in downtown Tyler, and we're grateful for it.
One more question. Yes, ma'am.
Just a personal question. I've always wondered about the home castle on the corner of Rosewood Boulevard and 3rd Street.
Yes.
Was that your grandfather or your great-grandfather?
That was my great-grandfather's house. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful house. It is.
Okay.
All right, Bill. Thank you all.
And thank you very much. Don't worry at all. I'd like to present this to you on behalf of the club, signed by our president, Allison Camry. But we make a contribution to the Literacy Council in your honor, and we certainly thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
The hardest part is the last three digits. The last three digits.
Last three.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, last three. 429.
429. Who's got that? All right, ma'am, if you'll head over there, I'm going to have you draw a card. And if you draw the ace of diamonds, you can retire. Where'd she get it? Queen of Hearts. Okay. Well, we'll try it again next week. All right, everybody, let's all stand for the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do as Rotarians. First, second, third, fourth, and it's been a pleasure seeing all of you, and we are dismissed.